to the cloud. Okay, well, I see Judge Cox has joined us as well. And I don't know why view is supposed to be different than it is, but anyway. Okay, everyone, again, welcome. My name is Robyn McCoy. I'm the president of Black Women Lawyers of Michigan. We've just had our general body meeting, and we have some wonderful guests with us today, Erin Lincoln and Judge Melissa Cox, the presiding judge for the Third Circuit Court for the Family Court. As you guys know, we bring in speakers at the to all of our meetings, and I saw that there was some discussions, or it was brought to my attention rather, from one of our board members, Tanisha Davis. I have a cold, but there was discussion about the family court filing process. So, and we've had an ongoing relationship working with Erin and with Zanelle. And so definitely wanted to have Judge Cox and Erin come out and speak to us about the filing process. And we have Tanisha and Rita will be co-moderators. I'm going to turn it over to Delicia to do introductions, and that's about it.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, special speakers. I'm Delicia Taylor Coleman, and I am the Vice President of Black Women's Law Association. So we send out our welcome to you for coming and speaking on this very important issue. A lot of our members are practicing law in the Wayne County Family Court Division, and it is some issues that if we could get any guidance or assistance, we would just greatly appreciate it. I'm going to introduce both of our speakers today. We have provided the same information in one of our earlier emails to the members, but Attorney Erin Lincoln, friend of the court, deputy court administrator since 2018. She previously was a staff attorney with Wayne County, friend of the court, and then became a supervisor in that position for 5 years. Well, no, and then was appointed as the legal director, assistant friend of the court, and was in that position for 5 years. She's a trained mediator, and in her spare time teaches jazzercise. Mental and physical. So thank you. Graduate of U of M and Wayne State Law. She lives, is married and has 3 children and four cats. So thank you, Erin. We also have our current presiding judge of the Family Law Division, Judge Melissa Cox. We had the benefit of actually running in 2016, and she was successful and has been elected judge in the Family Law Division since November 2016. She's a graduate of University of Michigan with her JD from Ave Maria School of Law. She was an associate attorney with Falzone Bone LLP in the family practice section. She's current president of the Wayne County Family Law Bar Association, past board member of Livonia Bar Association, and current member of Women's Law Association of Michigan. She has been selected the Business Magazine top circuit court judge for 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. There's some other information, various boards that she's also served on, and as stated, is our current presiding judge for the Family Law Division. Everyone, thank you for our current speakers.
Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to Rita and Tanisha to do the, be the co-moderators, and we'll have obviously remarks from our guest speakers talking about the filing process. So Rita and Tanisha, you guys can take it over.
Okay, you can start. Okay.
Just as a aside, I know Judge Cox stated she has to leave at 4:30, so if we could get her to maybe say her part first, and then I'm sorry, Erin, I don't mean to just kick you out, but we want to get as much in, and if you're available, we would greatly appreciate if you don't mind.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to tailor my questions very succinct, so I won't explain, because I think a lot of individuals here know what's going on with how the family court has been running procedurally. So my first question to both of you is, In terms of the filing system, we all see that there's a lot, we've been notified that there's a large backlog. And why does Wayne County Circuit Court utilize an email system for filings and not an e-filing system such as other circuit courts and courts around the state and local areas, jurisdictions have in place for cases and new cases, existing and new cases as are done in the surrounding counties? Why is that this county has not implemented or followed on with the e-filing system that's followed with criminal and other parts of Wayne County, different areas?
So that's a great question. And one of the first questions that I have as we were, endeavoring to try to fix this really terrible predicament that we're in. And the best answer I can give after speaking with SCAO multiple times on the issue, there's actually only one other family division that utilizes the e-filing system, the state e-filing system, and that's Oakland County. Oakland County had the requisite platform system to build the e-filing system from, which allowed SCAO to do that for them. Wayne County does not have that platform, and the expense of it is something that the county has not been prepared to assist in paying for at this time. Further, we still said, you know what, if we can get beyond that, if we can convince and tell the right people that the situation is so dire, perhaps, we could clear that expense. And unfortunately, the response from SCAO was, we see your issue. We understand your issue. It would take us about a year to even sit down at the table with you to discuss the e-filing system. And then it would take about a year or two to build that system and have it implemented. So, that kind of quickly became the non-solution. And then, we also were warned that it probably wouldn't fix the issues that have given rise to our backlog anyways. What I can say, and I'm kind of quickly getting into it, and I think Erin has some more details to share on this piece of information, is that internally we sat down as the court and said, what could we do then that's going to help? There's no doubt that the email system is adding to this backlog situation. Staffing is an issue, but the slowness of the email process is definitely part of the problem that's been communicated to us from the clerk's office. So our internal IT department is building us a internal e-filing system somewhat. It's a workaround system rather than a simple email platform. It would allow more, it'll be more of an internal e-filing type program. And I'm happy to say that we are probably a couple months away from that being implemented and up and running. And we're very, very hopeful that it's going to be part of the solution to the issue. Erin, do you have anything else on the
Yeah, the only thing I can kind of expand on that is, so obviously right now, everyone who files, just emails it into whatever box that it's in. And so how the new system that our IT is basically building from the ground up will work is that it'll be more kind of like an account based, where you'll have an account, you'll log in, and then depending on what type of case, if you're doing a new case or a motion or whatever it may be, you'll upload your pleadings right into the system. And then on the back end and the clerk's end, it's just going to be much more easy and seamless, because basically they can review those documents within the system that IT is building. And then they can, when they accept them, it'll basically take it right into Odyssey, which is our case management system. Whereas now they have to take those documents that are emailed in, they have to review them, they have to save them, then they have to upload them into Odyssey, they have to code them into Odyssey. This new interface that IT is building is going to be just much more seamless between the public interface and our system on the back end. So, but like Judge Cox said, it's still, we really started talking about it in probably November. And so we're still a few months out from it.
So I have a quick follow-up question to Rita's question and Judge Cox's response about the ability of the platform not to be able to, I guess, handle the family court docket. The question is, if there is a platform already built that is utilized for the civil division of Third Circuit, and there's a platform already built for the criminal division for Third Circuit, why is it so problematic to have a platform available for the family court division? Because it seems like a smaller docket. since all of the other dockets are already utilizing this system, why would it take 2-3 years just to get the family court on the system?
So basically, because SCAO is moving all the courts to the MyFile system, they have more or less said that they are not taking on any more courts, and they're not taking on any more case filing types until they can basically get everybody on. So that's more or less, it's not even really us. It's, my understanding is that it's SCAO, you know, saying that they can't, because we can't implement that system on our own at this point in time. It's us more or less waiting for that MyFile system to be implemented. And we have told SCAO that we do want to be first in line, especially with family domestic. The other thing I guess I would say too is that the state filing system is not as simple as a filing system on the back end, on the clerk's end. The system, they experience a lot of slowness within the civil and the criminal divisions with that system. So I know on the filer's end, it's very user-friendly, but on the back end, it's not necessarily super user-friendly. In addition to that, I'd also say too that I think family is a little bit more complicated because you have the friend of the court piece, you have a bigger percentage of the filers who are in pro per as well. So whereas, you know, attorneys are very used to, and, you know, most civil cases are attorneys, obviously in criminal, you know, you have your prosecutors and your public defenders. Because of the larger percentage of in pro pers, you know, you have to take that into consideration too with that e-filing system as well. I don't know, Judge, if you have anything to
Yeah, again, you know, it was really as soon as the clerk's office, you know, when I was trying to get a handle on, I should say too, and I think everybody does know this about Wayne County, but, you know, in Oakland County or in other court jurisdictions, the clerks are employed by the court. And so there's more solutions available to them. Our clerks are not employed by the court. We have an elected official and they're employed by the elected official. So any ideas that we have, we can't implement. We simply have to come to the table with our clerk's office and say, here's what we think would help the situation. And unfortunately, oftentimes there are reasons on the other end that those aren't acceptable or that, you know, they don't want to implement those. So, you know, as we work through things, and one of the very first things I was told by some people I work closely with in the clerk's office is that the email system really is just bogging everybody down. Our clerks get, you know, we have staffing issues already, and then the clerks who are working, you know, number one, this technology shift is all new to them. It's not the job that they walked out of when the pandemic started. It's brand new. They're learning it. They're figuring out how to do it. And at any given day, the system never shuts off because it's an email. There's no way to stop it at 5 o'clock. So there's never really an end time to the day. We've processed everything and we're going to start new again tomorrow. You know, they walk in and there's hundreds of new emails. And for every case that's filed, they probably have 4 or 5 emails. Did this go through? Did you get this attachment? Oh, I forgot to put this. And all of that is problematic because really, as Erin was saying, you know, there's just certain forms that need to be there. Some aren't in the right format for them to process. They've got to upload. So the slowness of the email system is the issue. And I thought, okay, well, then an e-file system would certainly work. And we need to get to that eventually anyways. And SCAO will see this issue as being, you know, such a terrible crisis that you're going to give us e-file, right? And it just wasn't the situation. You know, they basically said it was impossible. It has not come to the family courts yet, with the exception, which was an exception of Oakland County. And I said, okay, well, we're raising our hand to be the very first trial court for the family division. I don't care how long it takes. And, you know, that's when it was, okay, well, we accept that. Thank you. But it's going to be at least a year before we can sit down and even start working on it for you. So it just, again, as much as I'd like to say that sounds like it would be the solution. However, I do. I'm very confident that this IT system being worked on internally is probably going to be better than e-filing for the reasons that Erin said. So they have issues on the back end with the e-filing, and hopefully our system, our electronic filing system, will not have the same issues that the e-filing system has, and will be not only implemented much quicker, but will work a lot better. And again, that's just our hope. That's our solution. That's what we've been able to come up with from our side of the things without having to get really a quote unquote partnership with the clerk's office to say, yes, this is, we're willing to do this. It's basically what we're building and saying that we're going to use as the court.
Okay.
So,
Rita, no, you go.
okay, so in terms of just to kind of receive feedback off of those answers that are very, very important. It's my understanding that you had, both of you had indicated there's an issue with a lot of improper filings coming in that is kind of boggling up the system by a lot of rejections, returns by insufficient filings, correct?
I would say it's not just the impropers, that it's also attorneys too, that they submit filings multiple times, like Judge said, send the email in and they'll send another email in saying, was this received, or, here's a change to this or something like that. And I can just say that because I've put myself out there, if attorneys are having issues with the filing system, and even just the emails that I get, I'll get attorneys emailing me saying, hey, I filed this 2 weeks ago, what's the status of it? And I kind of refer them, because on our website now we are indicating, when I get the latest updates from the clerks as to which dates of filings they're working, I'm publishing that on the website. I've been trying to send out the information to this group and multiple other groups, the Family Law Listserv, so that people know and can at least hopefully look at that information and say, okay, I know the clerk's office, as of last Tuesday, they were working on filings from November 2nd. So anything, unless it was an emergency filing, unless it was received after November 2nd, I can expect that it's still going to be some time. So it's both impropers and, filings from the attorneys that are kind of, or not even filings, but emails and inquiries that are kind of bogging the system down.
Okay, just real quick. So in terms of the issue with scale, I know scale's but has your department been able to go above, given the fact that we are the largest county in the state of Michigan, and we have the largest amount of minorities that are facing litigation issues, that a lot of our improper and our good amount are represented. As Attorney Davis did indicate a concern, which we all have the concern that some of our issues with these cases are emergent, that don't have a chance to be heard. Now, have these issues, a funding issue, is there any issues that such as this have been brought up above scale to address the actual exigency of this issue, that we definitely need these cases processed quicker and more funding to help provide, implement the e-filing system, and or just more staffing to be able to manage what we currently have, which we will hopefully move into a more advanced system?
Yeah, so I'll start on that answer. So first I would say this, there is the availability of the emergency filing box, and that is still being processed same day. So I just want to remind, in as much as you can, to remind attorneys, at first it was like, well, we can't tell everybody to do that because that's going to get bogged down. But everyone should know that if there is an emergency in a case, it should be sent to the emergency box, and it will be processed that day. It'll be considered for emergency hearing, but better than that, the case gets filed, the pleading gets processed that day. So whether or not the jurist agrees that this is an emergency or ex parte relief or set for an emergency hearing, that pleading, that complaint, that motion will get processed on that day. So if there's any, I even say, sometimes what we saw as emergencies are just now, sometimes part of the delay is the emergency, right? So where something may not have been emergency before, a 6-week delay is certainly going to cause an emergency. So I would urge you to use that box to, certainly not abuse it, but use it to the extent that you deem appropriate as members of the bar, because that will get processed same day, and your case will get assigned to a judge, and a judge will look at it the same day. So if there is urgency or emergency, then utilize that. One other thing that we have been asking and really hoping to implement was the availability of overtime work for the clerks who are working, who are staffed, who could work from home, who really want overtime, are willing and able. And of course, I wouldn't want to see that happen in the building, but for them to be able to do that at home, process in the safety of their home on an overtime basis. And unfortunately, we have not been able to get a partnership or an agreement on that with the clerk's office, despite asking over and over for that. I don't attend those meetings, so I'm a bit, I'm as frustrated as everyone, really. And I really want to reiterate that and make that clear that, on the bench, we understand, because we rely on the efficiency of the same processes that you do for your clients to do our jobs and meet our responsibilities to the people of Wayne County. So, there is no lack of frustration, disappointment, and really, quite honestly, outrage in moments of this situation. So we're trying to think of any and every way to make the situation better in dealing with it. And I really thought that was a great solution. We've not been able to, I've been told several times by court administration who does attend these meetings that we think we're there. We think by this weekend we'll have this implemented, and then it just doesn't happen. So, Chief Kenny did share with me some information this week that he and now will be sitting down with SCAO, and SCAO will utilize the Supreme Court as pressure on the clerk's office within the next couple of weeks to at least get that solution implemented, because there's no doubt that it will help. Will it take us out of the situation? No. Will it move us in the right direction? I think so. And my hope would be that it moves us close enough in the right direction that in 2 months, when we have our new system running, we're hopefully back to where we were pre-pandemic. I can't, that remains to be seen. But these are the best solutions we have been able to come up with and, cause to be implemented in our partnership with the clerk's office. So those are, we certainly have talked to SCAO. We've certainly asked them to go to the Supreme Court if they don't have a solution and if we can't achieve one. So that's sort of where we're at this point with that situation. And Erin, I don't know if you have any better update than that.
I don't know.
Okay.
So I just want to follow up, and I certainly appreciate that. I am, I'll say that, Wayne County, I practice all over, but Wayne County is my home base. And so I do everything in Wayne County. One of the problems, I think, and I want to piggyback on what Judge Cox said about the utilization of the emergency. But don't you think, Judge Cox, that the idea of an emergency is subjective to the judge? And so what we may deem as an emergency, sometimes it's not deemed as an emergency by the presiding judge over your case. And sometimes that results in moot issues, meaning we have gone so beyond with delay that the issue, I can't go back and file another emergency motion because now the issue is moot. And we are then dealing with issues of due process with parents, parental rights and things like that create issues for attorneys. And how do we deal with explaining to our clients that, they're 90 days behind? Because we know that these are things that we ask ourselves as colleagues, like, this wouldn't be happening if we were Oakland County. This wouldn't be happening if we were Macomb County. Why does it seem like Wayne County keeps getting the brunt of excuses and everybody else is, moving forward full scale?
Yeah. Oh, I do not disagree in any way, shape, or form with that thought. And what I can say about the emergencies is, again, whether or not the judge agrees it's an emergency. So the way that it works is you either send it to the regular email box or you send it to the emergency box. If you send it to the regular email box, it is going to be 6 to 7 weeks before it's looked at, before it's processed, before the clerk touches it and says this pleading is moving forward. If it goes to the emergency box, it gets processed by the clerk that day, because it is, even if it's not deemed to be an emergency by the judge or the courtroom or the referee or whoever, anything alleged to be an emergency will be processed same day. And then the judge might look at it and say, no, it's not an emergency, but your case does not wait. You've short circuited that 6 to 7 weeks. So I guess, my point in that, and I'm certainly not suggesting just file everything as an emergency, but if there is, again, before it was, we, had to tell people, money issues are not emergencies. We can generally remedy, time for a hearing 30 days on money issues, but children and abuse and children being in harm, those are real emergencies. Now, I think we've moved the goalpost on that to some things become emergencies because you have a parent that hasn't seen a kid in 4 weeks. Now they're going to wait 6 weeks till their motions process. Then they're going to wait another 4 weeks because it's not an emergency. And now that's a real emergency, regardless of whether there is abuse, neglect, or danger to the child. So the timing of this is an emergency. So I would suggest in those scenarios, you'll short circuit the 6 to 7 weeks processing time if you just ask for it to be considered an emergency.
Okay.
So I would say anything that is, maybe before in good faith, you wouldn't have said, I think this is an emergency. It probably a lot more of those are now falling under that, and those get processed same day. Now, again, I do say, proceed with caution, because at a certain point, if everything comes into that box, it's just going to tip everything over to there. And at some point, these human beings processing it are probably going to end up in the same situation that they are with their other box. But so far that has not happened. And so far we have disseminated that information. And so far people are utilizing the emergency box appropriately and when necessary. So I just, I keep reiterating to, in these meetings, to the public, to the bar, please do use that if you think that your situation will become an emergency in that processing time or serious urgency.
Understood.
And then, again, the only thing I can say, about, and I see the differences there. Quite frankly, hurtful at times to see, how other attorneys, other judges can serve, their clients and their population in ways that we can't, especially right now. And I think that it's so unique the way that our system runs with regards to the clerk's office here in Wayne County, that it's almost incomparable to any other court system. Because, the court can just say, hire another 100 clerks, right now, and let's get that done. That's an emergency. They can meet with their county and say that. And we just can't do that. And I don't know, I really, truly don't know if it is a funding issue or if it's just a staffing issue, if there's just not, the workforce to be hired to fill the spots and to assist. Unfortunately, because, it's not within our employment in the court, I can't speak to those numbers or how this has gotten so bad. I do know, as hearsay from the clerk's office, that it's a staffing issue and that they're understaffed.
I have another quick question. I heard what you mentioned about the fact that the clerk's office is not hired by the court. Which is concerning, because then how are they responsible for determining whether our motions get, have to wait 6 to 12 weeks, or they're not understanding something on our end? How is that going to change with the new IT system? Because are we then going to still be utilizing the same clerk system who will give us the same excuse that they don't have the staffing or the funding in order to process a system that we built from scratch?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And it is obviously a concern and a fear. The issue, and just tying in Ms. Simmons' question as well. So no one in the clerk's office makes a decision on which pleadings wait. They do go in order from the time that they were filed, with the exception of emergencies. So again, the person filing really makes the decision whether this is going to get processed today as an emergency, or whether it's going to go in the regular box and be in the in line, basically in the queue in the email box, starting from the top. So they do go in order. They don't pick and choose. They don't read through them and decide, we're going to process this one now. It seems more urgent. The urgency box is processed real time, same day. I think the longest they've ever been is like a 24-hour lag. It's never been more than a day that they've gotten to that box, everything in that box. The other stuff is just the emails that are going in order. So they really are not making any decision as it relates to, I want to make that really clear, because I find it confusing. And I think with this new email system that it gets, some perceived differently. So the idea with the e-filing system, and I don't know, Erin, if you have any more details of what IT is doing with that, but essentially, instead of just opening emails, reading them, downloading the documents that are attached, sifting through them to figure out which ones are appropriate, the email system will be so similar to e-file and it will speed up the process, because every case that's processed by the clerk employees will just take that much less time, because it'll be like an auto, all the pleadings will be automatically loaded into the system versus them opening them and downloading them and uploading them and making a decision what documents they need. The system will only accept the documents needed. So it'll be, I think, also much more user friendly. It'll help the pro se litigants who are coming in and trying to figure out what to file. I think will probably be easier for them once they figure out how to utilize it. So that's the only way I can describe why we are hopeful that it will be much faster. And quite frankly, what we have to compare it to is that the civil division, while they have a backlog, it's nowhere near as long or as big as ours. And from the clerk's perspective, that is because they use an e-filing system. So I hope that our filing system will be even better than the e-filing system and will catch us, up even more than they are. Erin, anything else that you think is helpful to add to that?
Covered it.
Oh, okay.
Judge Cox, when you say that we should file as an emergency, I don't think do you mean filing new cases or new filings on an emergency basis for processing?
So great question. Certainly motions, as we all know, can always be filed as emergency. If you have a complaint, complaints are never emergencies in and of themselves. It would be something requested for in the complaint that's an emergency. So my suggestion is, when you have a complaint, if there's a emergent custody issue, you file a corresponding motion. It gets your complaint and your motion processed through the emergency box. So rather than just uploading the complaint, this is the other part that I think is very a little bit complicated and problematic with the current system, is that, as attorneys, and I know this well from having done it, you file a complaint and you think, okay, I'm going to get this filed today and then I'm going to get my case number, then tomorrow I'm going to file an emergency motion. Well, really doesn't work with this email system, because if you file your complaint and it's not the emergency, that's going to take 6 weeks before you get your case number and you can't file your emergency motion. But if you file your complaint and emergency motion together and send it to the box, the emergency box, the complaint will get processed and the emergency motion that day.
So I have a question regarding that issue. My first question is, are you aware of whether the clerk's department was actually put forth with a pretty extensive training on a basic COVID protocol-based practice in terms of processing cases? Were they trained, or were they provided an overall, overview of how to process these cases in the midst of COVID?
So, oh, sorry, Judge, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
So the clerks were very involved, because when, March 13th or 16th of 2020, when the courts closed and we all went on furlough, we basically had to overnight, create this email filing system, because we didn't have anything electronic in place prior to that time. I can tell you, because Judge McCarthy was the presiding judge at that time, Judge McCarthy, our IT department, and the clerks, we spent hours and hours and hours in meetings. They were pivotal in implementing the system that we put into place. In terms of what training they had on their end, I can't speak to that. I'm assuming they did have some training, but I don't know how extensive that was, but they were and have both then when we implemented the email filing system, and then with the new filing system that we're putting in place right now, the clerk's office is always a part of those conversations and in those meetings talking about it, because they're the ones that really do the work and know how to do the work, not Judge Cox or I or our IT system. our IT department, I guess.
Okay, because I'm asking that because it seems like there's a lot of communication. It's just in terms of myself dealing with these type of matters, depending on which clerk I'm working with or speaking to that I'm able to speak to, I get different information from them in terms of how to proceed with the filing to make it more expedited. So I'm just sure if there's going to be any unitary like protocol that the clerks can receive, such as, for example, there's a question is whether mailing the complaints or the pleadings would expedite the process faster than e-filing or filing through email. I received from only one clerk. I spoke to many different clerks. I was bounced from one clerk to the other, and I received from one clerk, FedEx it overnight and your matter will be processed once it's received in the mailroom and processed through the clerk's office. And that was the first time I had an actual truly expedited filing. So issues like that, such as speaking with a clerk who indicated mail me the pleading and then I'll have it filed. I think that's an issue that definitely, if has that been addressed in terms of putting together a unified, organized protocol for the clerks to follow, given the fact that unfortunately now we're hearing that there's kind of a disconnect, not disconnect, but there's a division between the clerks actually managing the clerk's office versus the court also having a role in the process. Is there anything that your court will be able to do to make sure, especially because I'm so thankful that Ms. Attorney Lincoln, you've been sending the updates to our organization to make sure we're on top of how to make sure these files are processed. But is there some way that your department, the court, can communicate in terms of making sure everything is unified so people aren't word of mouth, he said, she said, and we really can understand this process so it could run more expeditiously?
And where does this expedited mail go to, Rita?
The clerk's office, room 2.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought that up, because I have also heard that if you mail it in, it's almost like filing it in person. When they receive it, they process it because it's not buried in the email box somewhere. So that is another option. If something you don't need back the same day and you can mail it in, that generally will. And I would say, truly, if it's not an emergency, I'd rather see that so that the emergency box doesn't start getting backlogged. Probably, the happy medium is other things that that certainly can't wait 6 weeks, but aren't emergencies, maybe get mailed in and then they're processed within a week or so. So that's certainly another option, is to mail to the clerk's office. And then Erin, I don't know if you have anything you want to say to address really the protocol with the clerk's office. As Erin said, even though they are their own separate unit, the clerk's office, obviously it is a partnership in working with the court. So we do, everything that is developed and implemented, we do sit down and work together on. So I'm not sure, and I wish that I could answer why some clerks will tell you one thing and others on the phone will say another, because there is certainly supposed to be the uniformity of process and information, but it's helpful feedback for us to have a conversation with our the people that we work with closely and say, look, we're getting this feedback back that not everybody's on the same page or providing the same information, and we need to talk about that. So that's certainly something that we will take back to them, Ms. White, and talk to them about that. This is really interesting. So I just want to, Ms. Simmons, bring this up. So the court sending a standing order to the clerk, letting them know that the complaints should be logged as the date they were filed. So this is something that, keeps me up at night, sort of thinking about back and forth in my head. So one issue with that is that you file your case today, it's in the email box, it gets processed in 6 weeks. When is it filed? The problem we were seeing was that if it was considered filed, duly when it was emailed, that's when it was filed, then sometimes the summons was very close to expiring. And that was very problematic for people. So the summons is being issued as of the date that it's processed. I would say, because, I said, but that doesn't help if somebody goes out in Washtenaw and files a case, and this case got filed 6 weeks ago and not processed till today. So the filing date is the date that it was sent, and you have your receipt from the clerk saying that it was filed, that you received back, but the summons won't be issued until, just to help with that service issue, because Again, you get it back and the summons is, if it's 30 days old, and now you got to file a motion for extended summons, and you don't think to call that an emergency, which most of us wouldn't, when this started, then that's taking 6 weeks to process. And now your summons has certainly expired. So I would say, number one, every motion for alternate or for extended summons should go to the emergency box, because it's a procedural emergency. It really is. It can't wait 6 weeks and then another 4 weeks for a hearing. So, and ex parte relief should always, really be, you should consider asking for that on those, since the judge can decide that without a hearing generally, if there's enough information. So I think, that is the only thing I can say about the, but we can consider what we could do to more formally make sure that the pleadings are considered as filed on the date that they are properly email filed, as long as everything is, there and it's processed and you get your return receipt. So Erin, I'm not sure if we can think of a way to more formalize that with the clerk's office, that is the filing date versus the summons date. But again, I had that thought that if that issue certainly comes up if somebody else files somewhere else who filed first.
So Judge, why can't the courtroom, the judge's clerk, play a much more intense role in assisting with whether it's the processing of motions or, the issuing of, verification of filing? It seems like the judge's clerk is much more engaged in what's happening per case. But why isn't the judge's clerk maybe playing a bigger role, since there seems to be a bit of a, not disconnect with the clerk's office, but they seem to be the liaison with the clerk's office to some extent?
Yeah, so that's another great question, and a solution that we've thought of. Some of this was, well, if we've gotten a real emergency and the motion's there and everybody's there because they thought it was going to be processed, some of us were instructing our courtroom clerks to do that. Unfortunately, again, they're not employed by us, and they were directed that they cannot do that. They cannot process anything from the courtroom itself, even though they might physically be able to go into the system and do that. They were instructed by their employer that they are not to be doing that. So that's the most I can say on that. And probably some of them have done it when they weren't supposed to. So I really,
Yeah, we don't want, that's good. Judge, I know you said that you have to go. Did you?
I have a few more minutes. I can, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well,
I got one good question for her, which is a little off the topic of the filing, but I think it's also important, and that is, when is the court going to implement a system whereby we can get copies of documents and pleadings without having to physically go down to the building and go into the basement?
Great question. Erin, do we know if that's part of the IT's new system? Will it include that availability like in Oakland County?
Oh, I think in the new system, what will happen is that when the filing is accepted for filing, that it would just kick a copy back to whoever emailed it, and that copy would be time-stamped and everything. I think the issue of being able to get documents online, like Oakland County and other counties do, our files are not a simple electronic file or a simple paper file. Especially, I think you guys are aware, the county clerk is the keeper of the records for the DMs, the DOs, DCs. Friend of the court is the keeper of the records for the state-initiated DPs, DSs, interstate files. So we're in a process right now where we at the front of the court, at least, we are trying to digitize all of our records. We still have hundreds and hundreds of files in the basement in the Penobscot building. So, if you were to ask for a copy of a file, somebody has to look at that register of actions. They have to depending on how old the file is, they have to piecemeal together all of those documents. They're not all in one place, succinctly where some sort of IT system could pull them, so that you would be able to get them just with a click of a button and a payment, right? That is something that, like I said, we're definitely working towards. we, at the front of the court specifically, we have digitized thousands and thousands of records in the last probably 4 years, but we still have probably thousands and thousands to go. So in terms of a date, I don't have a date and time. Obviously, these last 2 years, we've been really kind of more reactive with things than proactive because of COVID and the pandemic. But it is something that we're working towards. In terms of the clerk's office, I don't know. I know that they have, for the last, again, 4 years or so, been scanning everything into Odyssey so that more documents are available there. But, again, with your older files, you're still going to have some things that are in paper. So,
But why aren't attorneys and why can't anybody have access to Odyssey? If I go in the basement, I have access to these same pleadings that I can't access from my, office computer. So it's
So I
not like they're not there, like the pleadings are scanned in and they're available, but I can't get them from my system. But if I go into the building and go into the basement and get on one of those little antiquated
yeah.
computers, then I can do that. It just, I know, like, I really appreciate you both being here and sharing this information that we just don't know. I think from the perspective of attorneys who are practicing, we are concerned that these are things that, from our clients' perspective, it's just unacceptable that these basic requirements are not available to the public, especially considering we have one of the largest counties that has the largest pro se litigants. So there are people who are not even equipped with people like us, and they don't have basic access, and I think that's just turning into such a huge problem. It sounds like it's more a clerk issue than a family court issue. But I guess we want to know how both parties and us as attorneys can work together to figure out how to fix it, because to simply say it's not able to happen or we don't know when it's going to happen, like those don't seem like the best answers to, for us and for our clients. Like they seem like they should be providing us with better answers to these really serious questions. I mean, I have a client who hasn't seen a child in over a year because of the delay and something happened on some other end that was an error and no one wanted to fix it. But that's really difficult to be able to tell parents that, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, 2 holidays just passed, my bad, So I just want to figure out the best way to service our clients, because a lot of our clients are minorities just like us, and we're feeling the brunt of, I'm just going to go use an address in Oakland County because I know I'm going to get my stuff processed quicker. And, we don't want that. We are the largest and we should be functioning like the largest.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. I mean, it's very, as my dual role as deputy court administrator for family domestic and also friend of the court, I hear that a lot. Well, in Oakland County, Oakland County friend of the court can do X, Y, and Z, super simple. Well, Oakland County friend of the court also has, maybe a third of the cases that we have in the front of the court, and they also have probably as many staff members as we have, and they don't handle the case establishment function that we have. So, I feel your pain, I empathize, because, and I think Judge Cox does too, we live that every day, along with all of you. I wish I had better answers.
I understand. I mean, and you've always been 2000% helpful to me. So I'm certainly, everybody, the accessibility of the bench has been phenomenal. I just wish there was a better way and some better answers for us to be able to relay this and fix the problem, not just keep talking about the problem. I mean, if it's an issue of funding, like who do we need to talk to regarding funding?
Yeah, so what I'll say on that, and in closing before I go, I for what it's worth, can say that that is something that I would love to see happen while I am, serving in this role in this court, because I do think that basic access to justice, that's really ingrained within that concept. I inherited this leadership at a really interesting time, but I've had the benefit over the last 5 years of working closely with Judge McCarthy and kind of seeing how we got to some of the issues that we've gotten to, and watching really watching her problem solve on so many other things. But there's much left to do. There's no doubt. Right now, the most profound issue is certainly this backlog issue. We're not even functioning at a minimal, level of basic justice until we've got this situation figured out. Funding is not far off the radar, and far in line from what I perceive as being some of the biggest issues with, how we function. And so I can tell you that from what I've learned in meetings and talking about that, it's certainly something that unanimously the executive committee of the Wayne Circuit Court agrees is an issue and meets regularly and talks about. And so while I can't share, what's going to happen with that, I can promise you that there is a united agreement amongst us that we are coming to the table and we're not taking no for an answer when it comes to things that we need in order to provide for our families in Wayne County. It's just, we haven't been able to meet what I consider to be, the basic level of that. So it's something that is very important that I know Erin's very passionate about, Zanelle's very passionate about, our new coming chief is, and I am, and I think we have a lot of ideas, and really, it's going to take resources, and like I said, we're going to figure out how we achieve that, and how we get what we need to do those things. So I ask certainly patience. I know that's something that's a little bit laughable with the backlog that we have, to say, please be patient. But I can tell you that, we are working, Erin and I meet all the time, and it's like, well, I'm just up at night thinking about this backlog issue or the staffing issue or these things that just seem, so insurmountable, but they're not. It's just going to take the right people and the right resources to accomplish what needs to be done. So we are hopefully not far from figuring out, this crisis in the clerk's office with the backlog, and then moving on to even bigger projects and bigger things that, I hope will make everybody's job easier, and in turn, help all the families that we all are trying to help. So that's kind of what, I can say about those issues.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. I know you have to leave, but just one quick, I do have one question, but I believe Attorney Lincoln would probably address that. But in terms of the Odyssey system, I'm sure you may be aware, but I'm sure there's several attorneys that practice in Washtenaw County. They have an Odyssey-based system. And what they do is, since even in Wayne County, whenever you see the pleadings, there is something you can click on it, but there's no document that pops up in the Wayne County system. But in Washtenaw County, they image up all of the pleadings that go into play. And it's actually the attorneys have a personalized username and password that they can go into their system. And then once the pleading is uploaded, then the attorneys can actually click on it and then download it or save it for themselves. So I'm not sure if that's an idea that Wayne County wants to look into, for all the pleadings for the attorneys to be able to access through the Odyssey system with their personalized information, to be able to click on it. Because I've had a lot of success in my divorce cases in Washtenaw County by clicking on the orders, clicking. And so that might be something that the court might want to look into.
I'm actually really glad that you said that, because, what I can say on that is, just 5 years ago when I started, it was my clerk going to the basement every day and bringing the files up and looking through the files. We've moved into Odyssey such that I can do that now. And I used to not be able to do that. So we moved into Odyssey where everything was available. We could kind of see what you see. And now the courtrooms can click on those images. And I did not know that in Wayne County, they've expanded access to that to members of the bar. So that's actually very helpful information. I can't say that, I can certainly advocate for things. I don't make the decision, but knowing that it's possible is very helpful, because that, is something for Erin and I to go back and talk about with other people who, do make the ultimate decision. Because if that is available with a login information, then that is certainly something to talk about.
Okay, yeah, it's out of wash now, so I'm not sure if you have to leave, but there's a question that a lot of attorneys we've been discussing. I myself handle cases in the juvenile sector, child welfare, where we have families that a father is listed as a non-respondent, meaning he does not have allegations regarding child welfare neglect against him. And I'm hoping mothers will also be in that pocket too. And so they're listed as a non-respondent. So the mother is listed as a respondent. So what happens is before a case court can close out a case, someone has to obtain custody. So now they've implemented a process where we have appointed attorneys that represent the fathers to file CPLR cases, which are custody cases that they would have to file in the family court. And then it would have to be transferred to the juvenile court, or would be transferred to the juvenile court, Szymanski, to handle the custody matter. A lot of attorneys, most of us, have had issues in terms of the communication piece of understanding whether the court is understanding of the process of how they are to process these matters to the juvenile court. Because when I've been handling these matters, I will file and I will wait and I will wait and I will wait and I will call the clerk to discuss the juvenile court. Did you hear anything? They have not heard anything. I will also call the family court clerk, and then I would receive different factors as to why they have not been actually filed or accepted to be transferred. So I'm wondering if your court has really had a conversation with the juvenile court to discuss, really implement a very expedient process, because unfortunately, a lot of these cases, because they drag so long, the juvenile court is in a position, they have a timeline that they have to follow, that they're in a position that when and if the case is transferred to juvenile, the kids are returned to mother or father, or, or they have to just keep the case pending. So I'm wondering if there's some implementation of a process that it could be communicated throughout to the bar and the judicial bench, especially in terms of how we can get these child welfare cases transferred and handled in the juvenile court expediently, more efficiently.
Yeah, so there is a process for that, and it actually was recently developed a few years ago. The referral process of the custody matter from the family court to the juvenile court once it's filed. We've been meeting on this regularly to just kind of work out the kinks that the juvenile court has perceived, that the family court's perceived on each end. One of the biggest problems that we're having is the process of service. So one solution that it seems very clear needs to happen is a training process for the appointed attorneys, who oftentimes what happens is they file the case here and then they don't serve the complaint on the other party. And so the case cannot get referred over to the juvenile until process of service is complete and there's a proof of service. And once that's done, then it's fairly immediate. But generally what we're seeing, if there is any delay, it's number one, unfortunately right now, the clerk office issue, because it's taking the 6 weeks, but then, there's no follow-up on the service by the appointed attorney or whoever, however the case is filed. So we are working on trying to, we're meeting regularly with the juvenile court to work out those issues. And then, there's still this concept of one judge, one family too, that, I hope will be realized, at some point in the future too, because I think then that becomes a complete non-issue when everything is with one judge. It's been hard to implement, obviously, in Wayne County, but we're hoping to work towards that too in the near future. So, a lot going on, but in the interim, we do have that process and we're really working together. We certainly recognize that we have some issues and some of those are with delays, and it seems to be the service. And there can't be a referral, because if the case gets referred and then it ends up getting dismissed, you've just referred a case that's not really a case, because it's dismissed. The clerk's office is dismissing it for expiration of the summons with no service. So that's by and large where we're seeing that delay. We unfortunately, because we have the juvenile court and the domestic relations, and it's not one judge, it's not only two judges, it's two buildings, it's two court administrators, two clerk's office. So it's it was kind of it took all of us sitting down to say, okay, let's look at this and see where this delay might be coming from. It seems that most of the delays are happening there. So we're going to look into not only a training for the new attorneys that are appointed, but also other ways that maybe we can expedite that part of the process, what resources we can deploy to help with the service issue, and making sure that if there's not service, there's a motion for alternate service quickly filed. Sometimes they know right away that they are never going to find this parent, or they haven't been seen in years. So really, why are we waiting, for the summons to expire, and not just immediately filing a motion, for alternate service on those types of cases. So that's the most I have on that, unless you have any other thoughts, Erin, on how
No,
that-
you may have noticed Judge Cox and I smiling when the question was
Yeah.
asked, because much of our week this past week was spent on this very issue. We meet regularly with the presiding judge, Judge Joseph, in juvenile. And as you know, there's been a change of administration at juvenile as well, with Toylan Smith being the new deputy court administrator. So we are working regularly with them to try to correct this issue, because we do know with the CPLR attorneys that are filing that they are experiencing delays. And as Judge Cox said, a lot of those are the same things that we've been talking about here with the clerks and whatnot. So it is something we're aware of, and that we are working on trying to shore up and get it to be a more efficient process as a whole.
Thank you. So just lastly, I don't want to hold anyone's time up, but in terms of the issue, because in criminal cases, if you're indigent, you're entitled to representation. So I'm just wondering if there's a way there could be also a discussion on the waiver form, because given the fact that attorneys are immediately appointed to individuals, fathers that do not have an attorney or cannot afford an attorney, if there's some way we can kind of, I guess, bypass the process of having to go through the waiver form and sending it to Judge Kenny's clerk, because she's very efficient, but it takes time. It takes time out of the time that we need to process the matter. So is there a way you can talk with the group about maybe if we label the motion as a CPLR case, that we wouldn't have to go through the process of having to file a request for a waiver and including it with the clerks, with the filing, and then if everything's not put in place, we have it rejected back. So they're just for efficiency purposes, if we could be treated, those cases could be treated just like any other indigent case, that they don't have to go through the full request by the attorney filing a waiver.
I think we can definitely take that back, but I think that, there are the court rules with regards to fee waivers, and I don't know that we could, I'd kind of be a little hesitant to create some system to bypass that. So we can definitely take it back and take a look at it, but that's kind of my first thought on that. I know, well, Judge, do you need to leave? Because there's a lot of questions in the chat, and I can hopefully.
Yeah, so I was gonna chat this, but yeah, certainly, I am always willing to talk, email, help head off solutions. I know Zanelle is, if you have any issues with cases that are filed and you don't know if they've been processed, she's taking emails and looking up, and we're just unfortunately doing our best with really bad circumstances right now. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you think of anything at all. If there's anything else I can clarify, I'm more than happy to do that. And I am very hopeful that our new system is really going to help us through this current crisis with the backlog.
Okay, Judge, thank you for coming
Thank you
out.
so
And
much.
yeah, I'm sure we may have you come back again if we have further questions, more
I would
time.
love that. Yeah, I would absolutely love that. And I'll be sure to share just with you guys directly any updates that we're working on this issue and any others as well.
Okay, all
Thank you so
right.
much, Judge.
Okay, take care. Have a wonderful day.
You as well.
So thank you so much.
Bye. Bye, Erin.
Hi, Judge. So I have time if you guys want me to stay and.
And I was just gonna say, we'll give it about another 6 minutes because we've been on since about 3:50 for this. So yeah, for the moderators. Okay.
I would like to just add a quick suggestion, Erin, and I don't know if this is something you could throw to Judge Cox or in one of your meetings, but there are 2 points I want to make. The first one is there a way that we can, when we are making a filing and we receive that generic email back that says, oh, we've received your filing, is there a way that email verification can be specific to the case that you filed versus something so generic? Because if I've made 10 filings in one sitting, I don't know where, which filing that very generic email is coming back for. The second point I wanted to make is there a way that we can control the level of the degree of delay when you're waiting on a Zoom hearing? Oftentimes I've sat and I've waited, an hour and a half, depending on the judge, and I don't get any response to say, hey, this is the lineup, you're next, your 10th, you're just sitting there waiting. And it just seems like a lot of disrespect for attorneys whose time is just as valuable as the judge's time. And, you know, we don't get any response. And again, we are billing our clients while we're sitting. And so that's, you know, clients don't like to be billed for idle time. And that's not your concern, but it is a concern as it relates to, you know, how we are able to be more efficient and at least getting some feedback from the clerks. Sometimes, you know, you call the clerk and say, hey, I've been sitting, you're getting a nasty response or no response. And so is there a way that we can address just those 2 points? Maybe you can.
Yeah, so I will take them both back.
Okay.
With regards to the auto response, does it at least say like, you know, auto response regarding the same subject line, or it just?
No, and that would be perfect if the subject
Right.
line could remain in the responsive email.
Okay, yep, I can bring that to IT definitely, because I can see where that would be an issue. And then with regards to waiting on the Zoom hearing, so Judge Cox has really stressed, because that was a piece of feedback. I don't know if any of you were on, we had meetings, oh, now I can't even remember, I think in the fall with the private bar regarding feedback about, you know, the court's response during the pandemic. And that was by and large kind of the biggest piece that we had heard from attorneys was, you know, kind of getting, now that we have Zoom, you know, can't we be scheduled at a certain time? So it's not this, you know, cattle call type docket. And Judge Cox has really stressed to the bench that they should be, you know, scheduling at certain times so that people can anticipate being called during that time. But I will take that back to her to see, you know, maybe we can talk about it at a bench meeting, just so that there is some type of communication to those who are waiting, you know, like you said, something like there's 2 more cases ahead of you, or, you know, just so you have some type of anticipated time to know when you'll be, you know, up on the docket. And the other thing we have heard too on that is that, you know, with clients, some clients call in, you know, on phones that are minute by minute, you know, they don't have unlimited minutes to be able to sit there on the phone. So yeah, I will definitely take that back to her, and the bench should talk to them about that.
Thank you so much.
So in terms of, I see we do have, there is going to be sponsored by the Detroit Bar Association, an event where it's going to be before Judge Kenny and Presiding Judge Frizard regarding the court's response to the fall 2021 pandemic feedback session and members of the bar and next steps for the new normal at Third Circuit Court. Is the Family Law Division going to be participating by any chance in this?
So that meeting, I believe, is just with regards to the Civil Division. Is that right? Because we will be scheduling our own, because
Okay.
we had those meetings in the fall with regards to the feedback, and then we are going to schedule another meeting. We just haven't unfortunately had a chance to do it yet, but we will be scheduling one specific to Family Division.
Okay. And lastly, we have about 2 minutes before 5 o'clock, the 5 o'clock time. Now, in terms of really, has the court discussed, because 36th District, they're open regular business hours just for payment of bonds, et cetera. However, has the circuit court been in discussion about at least designating about 2 to 3 days or 2 days or 3 days during the week for individuals to be able to come in person, as long as they pass the COVID clearances to come in and proceed with their filings? Because I think that would definitely be something that should be considered, given the fact that there is a backlog, but we need to make sure there's more efficiency. So that's something that the Third Circuit Court Clerk's Office is considering.
I don't know if it's something that the clerk's office is considering, again, you know, because we have this odd situation where we're kind of a partnership, but we can't necessarily tell them how to operate. It's something that we have talked about in the past. I think part of the struggle with that is if we, you know, open back up to the public, then the clerks have to cover both those public coming in and filing, but then also try to keep the email filing going as well. And so to have the staffing to do both, I think that's really where that struggle is with reopening. So it's something, like I said, that we've talked about. We actually have a meeting coming up on Tuesday that is a Third Circuit Court clerk meeting, and I can bring it up then and see, but you know, that's when we've talked about it in the past. The staffing issue is really kind of the impediment to that.
Erin, another thought is you could consider, or the clerk's office could consider doing slots time slots where people can schedule time to come, to minimize the, number of people who would actually be in, the clerk's office at one time, and also minimize the amount of, processing outside of the e-filing system. That's just an option.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. And that's what, in the front of the court, that's what we're looking at when we reopen customer service, is to have appointments rather than just, open doors for everybody to come in. So yeah, that's a good point. And like I said, I will take that back to them and ask them about them.
Well, you've been awesome. And I just want to say for everybody who's on here, and I'm not trying to throw you out there, Erin, but every time I have a problem, and she knows I'm the email queen, I will email and ask, hey, something's going on. I can't find this. I need some help. And I am one of those attorneys that don't mind asking for help. I don't try to act like I know everything. But Erin, I just really appreciate the accessibility that you've been able to provide, and just always been extremely helpful and informative about filings and, anything that's going on with FOC or the family court.
Well, good.
Yeah, I
That's
would
what we
agree
really
with
try to
that.
do.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Erin, thank you for being, a liaison for us and for keeping us in the loop with everything, and for also taking your time out to come and speak with us today.
Yep, not a problem. Yeah, I would, if you guys have questions about filings, like I said, if there's something that's delayed, check the website first to see what the date the clerks are processing. But if it's something that was filed prior to that, please feel free to reach out. Sometimes I'm right on top of my emails, but if I'm in a meeting or something, it might be a little bit of a delay, but I do try to prioritize those emails and get back to attorneys right away to let them know what's going on. So thank you for having me too. I appreciate all of you having us at this meeting.
Yes. Okay. So everybody, it's 5 o'clock. So I'm going to close it out, and everybody enjoy the holiday weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all in February.
Bye, everybody.
Stay
Bye,
safe.
thank
you.
Stay safe, everyone.
Have a good MLK Day.
MLK.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. That's
Honor
right.
him, honor everything.
Yes, right.
Thank you.
Especially.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.